Alright, the incubator is finally done for the season. So it's been running for July now. It's been running for probably close to 6 months. So anyway, we are going to clean this out. There is, I've had some questions about this. People are interested in it. It's a nice little unit. It does need some modifications, however. For example, this is your water tray here. And this is actually it's a screen out of a cage that I've got to clean up. And this is to keep any chicks or any ducklings hatch out in here and are able to jump over top of this tray that's in here while the eggs are out. If they're able to get over top, they're not going to get past this and get into the water dish. So it's kind of a neat little addition that you might want to think about if you are getting one of these. So we want to clean this out with some soap and water. I'll bring this over here. Okay, so you can see here, this is the water dish. This has a float valve in it, and it's plumbed externally out the back. So this here, I've noticed that the float valve at the back, it leaked out. And so I just want to make sure that when I clean this out, I want to make sure the seal is good and everything's all tight on that it's not going to leak. So I'll test it out first. Plus I've got some LED lights that I'm going to attach to the bottom of this rail right here. And then the wiring's just going to go up and plug into a socket that screws into the light that's pre-existing in here. At the top, there's an LED right here. LED light that I installed. Went LED. Figured it's. So I'm just going to put an adapter on that so that there's a plug that goes onto the side of it, and then I'm just going to run the wire kind of over and down here somehow, and then have a row of LED lights all underneath here. So here you can see the float valve here. So some other modifications that I did were on the door. Well, this thing's running at fairly high humidity. Let's just fix this up here. This screen, or the window, actually fogged up. So this is a made-in-China unit, remanufactured in the U.S. to meet our standards, voltage, different things of that nature. So it's not the best manufactured, but for the price and for what you're getting, it's an excellent unit. So here, what I did is these are rivets in here that are holding these plates on that hold the window in place. So I drilled out these rivets, exposed it, I popped the glass out. Now in the future, I think what I might do is invest in a larger window. So cut that out, cut this whole section out, window larger, to a pre-measured glass, install it. So it uses, in between the two panes of glass, it uses it's a porous material. A porous seal material that you wouldn't use in between windows. Usually what they use is some kind of epoxy that goes and seals the two windows together so that nothing gets in there. So what I did is I pulled the window out. I went around the entire seal after I pulled the windows apart because they had moisture inside them. So I pulled it apart, dried it all out, put them back together, and then I used silicone to go around the outside of that so that they were somewhat sealed. And then when I pop this back in, I then put silicone around this section here. So now this window is completely sealed and it's perfect. Okay, it's a new day, and I went and I cleaned everything out. I made another bit of soap water just to give it a one-time over or a second time over, I guess. But what I found my leaking problem from this water container, this heated tray, is when it was manufactured, you can see here there are little spots here where they did the welding. So they folded this over and then they spot welded, and then they went and they soldered around the joint itself. So what's happened is that has made it weak. That's made it weak. And when the water was in there, it actually rusted out those little points. So I've got a couple options here. I can either seal this, which I'm not too fond of, putting any kind of silicone or anything in an area with hot water or fairly warm water is probably going to break down pretty quickly. I could go through and solder those sections. I'd have to clean it off really well. That may work. It's probably my best option. My next option is to pick up like a baking pan, like something you make a loaf of bread, one that's roughly that size. It might be kind of an odd size. It might be bigger than the normal and smaller than the casserole style. So it might be tough to do. So I'm going to have to spend a little bit of time on that and figure that out, what I'm going to do. Okay, so the next thing here is I picked up some LEDs. Now this was like 20 bucks. There's 20 strips of LEDs. So, and they're all individually, they've got double-sided tape here on the back. So we just have to cut them all off. I've wired them up to a 12-volt transformer, a router transformer plug-in. So what I'll do is I'll cut these off. I'm going to take, and with the light socket up here that I put the LED light bulb into, I am going to replace it with one of these guys. So it's just a simple screw-in fixture. It has your turn off, which you can just leave it in the on position because there is a light switch on the front. Then I will screw my bulb into here, and then I will plug in my transformer into that, so that as soon as I turn on the lights for the unit, these guys are going to be turned on, and they are actually going to be sitting. These are the trays here. So these trays go in here, and the hatching tray goes on the bottom. But when you turn the unit on, what happens is the lights up top here, and there's a shadow casted down here, so you can't get a good view of what's going on, who's starting to peep out, who's actually come out, who's not. It's just way too dark. So what I'm going to do here, okay, so this is kind of how they work. So you've got your mass piece all connected in here, which you can use for a lot of different things. I've used it for a camera light, or you can separate them like this, and then I will then attach them underneath here, going around the entire bottom of the bottom tray to make sure I get enough lighting in there. So that's going to be my next step. So I'm going to do that, and we'll move on to that section. I'll show you the final hookup of that probably right about now. Okay, so there we go. We are good to go here. So I've now installed the LED lighting here, which you can see underneath. I brought this bulb here, I've installed that little switch. So actually I could shut that out if I wanted to and leave these lights on, or I could have this on. So I just installed that. I put in the transformer here, plugged into it, brought it over, zip tied it down this line here, and then just brought it underneath, ran it across, and then it has a self-adhesive tape underneath. So then I just went around the outside, underneath, and I used 18 of them. So I have 2 left. So I can use those 2 for whatever. I'll just get another 12 volt transformer, plug into that, and if I want to use it for something for a camera light or something to that effect, then I can do that. So anyway, that is pretty much it, other than my water tray that I'm going to have to find something here to either fix this. I may just try to solder it, or I may just replace the whole thing just to make it simple. So everything's good. I'm going to pull this back off, just run some silicone on it before I use it. Probably not today, but other than that, one last thing actually. There is a sanitizing feature of this model, which is a nice little addition. So I cleaned it up yesterday, and actually let's just grab this again, and it has, if you saw the last episode, it has this light up here. So I've gone through and I've wiped everything completely down. So I may do it one more time just to make sure that I have all of the, you get all the eggshells and you get all that crud from the bottom. Actually, here's a little eggshell piece here. But it has this, it's a sanitizer. So by turning this on, I'll turn the light off so you can see. Actually, this breaker has to be on for that to work. And then, of course, we've got to clear the code. Okay, so and as you can see, this is an ultraviolet sanitizing light. And because the fan's running, the light doesn't require to be able to see the contact surface, like underneath here. If there is any kind of matter or anything here, because the fan is running, this sanitizing light, it bombards the area with ionized air, and it'll actually kill particles that are underneath different things. So by just having that on and then closing up, you can smell it. It sounds like if you've ever smelt a photocopier running. It has quite a, like a thunderstorm. After a thunderstorm is just ionized air. So now the reading I've read online about how long do you leave it on for, there's a bunch of different tests. Some people at work, they leave it on if they work in laboratories. They'll leave it on overnight, 24 hours, well, I guess not 24 hours, 12 to 18 hours. They'll just leave it on overnight. But the UV light has a lifespan. I'm not sure what that lifespan is. It probably varies depending on the different types of bulbs. But basically 20 minutes to 40 minutes is kind of the sweet spot. So anything after 40 minutes, let's say 45 minutes, it's just a waste of time. It's a waste of the usage life of the bulb. So that's it. I've replaced this guy. Everything's good. Installed the lights. Put in the transformer. Plug in. Wired everything up. So really, I'm pretty much done. I'm just going to wipe it out one more time. I don't need the sanitizing light on now. I'll run that afterwards for 20 minutes. Yeah, so I'm going to replace the tray. I'm going to find out something that I can replace the tray with. And then maybe I'll tack that on to the end of the video. And we'll go from there. Thanks for watching. Alright, as you can see, I decided just to give the soldering a shot. And as it turns out, it worked fine. Just had to clean off the ends. Not bad. Clean off some of this excess solder. But the holes are plugged. Perfect. So now I'll be able to fill this up. I'll give it a test run, of course, before we put eggs in next time, and then fill it up and find out if it's leaking again. But no, it's all good. Perfect. So I can now put this back together again. And we should be good for next hatch. So, that's it. That's it for this video. And if you have any further questions that maybe I didn't talk about, leave the comments below. Be sure to subscribe. If you have any topics that maybe I might be able to help you out with, leave a comment on that as well. And thumbs up. See you next time.